Hello, everybody. It's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly episode. This is episode number 263 for May the 28th, 2024. Hope all the American friends out there had a good long weekend. I know it's a solemn occasion for you, Memorial Weekend, but nevertheless, it's still a long weekend, so I hope you had a good one. Okay, let's have a little sip of coffee. And let's jump into what I've been working on. Now, if you saw my vlog yesterday, you already got a sneak peek at these, but I'm going to be a little bit more detailed about these creations. So this is a quilt made with the Churchill block. That's the block, as you probably know, that Stephanie and I are doing a weekly sew along with. They are not a live sew along. Excuse me. They're not a live sew along. We pre-record them. Just because it fits into our schedules a little better. And it also allows you to work at your own pace later on when they are broadcast. Anyways, I digress. So I did have, if you've been watching that so along, a little problem with the measurements for the block. And so, although from a distance, this looks fine. But if you get up front and study it, and this is something you should never do as a quilter, never point out your mistakes, but you know that I call this the Idiot Quilter because that's what I like to do, to show you that, hey, these kind of things do happen. So this, by the way, is just the quilt top, and it's made up of 9 of the Churchill blocks. And when you put them together this way, you get this nice secondary pattern here in the center and on the edges of the squares, which I really like. I had the choice to either put in sashing or not. I chose not to put in sashing. However, if I blow this up a little bit, let's see what I can do. You're going to see in here, oops, that's not what I want to do. Right in here, there's a problem. This one's a real, when you see it blowing up, this one's really pronounced. So is this one, so is this one. They do not line up. Now, is that because I was being a sloppy piecer? Well, yeah, maybe, but not really. I tried to get them to fit. They did not. The measurements did not come out exactly right according to the pattern. Now, is this a problem with the pattern? Yes and no. I have a theory, and I'm sorry that I'm clearing my throat. For some reason, this time of the day, I get a frog in my throat. Anyways, it's yes and no a problem with the pattern. And the problem is this. The first unit that you make in the block is supposed to measure 7.5 inches by 4 inches. Well, it came out about an 1/8 of an inch larger the long way. So instead of 7.5, it came out to about 7.5 plus an 1/8. You do the math. And I didn't really think a lot of it because oftentimes your pieces will not come out for a variety of reasons exactly the way that the pattern says it should be. However, we often compensate for those little mistakes when we start putting the pieces together into the larger quilt top. And you can usually do a little what I call fudging. And that's what I had to do on some of these blocks. But I didn't think about what might happen when you start putting the blocks together to make a bigger piece. This pattern, it's by Doug Lico in his book Tabletastic 2, is supposed to be either a tabletopper as one block, or you put 3 of them together, you have a table runner. Now, if you were doing that, you wouldn't have maybe as much of a pronounced problem. Now, so why am I saying that the problem is yes and no with the pattern? The pattern is very well written. Everything's there. It's all laid out. But here is something that you have to take into consideration, which Doug Lico does not address in the pattern. Some of these pieces, well, a lot of these pieces are triangles, and he uses sort of the flip and stitch method for some of them. So he has a square on a rectangle, or a rectangle on another rectangle, and you sew a diagonal line and you flip it over. Well, when you do that, depending on how accurate your line is, and even if your line is accurate from on the diagonal, you have to take into consideration the weight of your thread. If the thread is, well, I use 50 weight, it can make it when you flip the piece over, it may not match up exactly with the line of the other piece. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but that is what the problem is, I think. So you need to adjust for that. And this is where I always get lost. Do I sew to the left of the line or to the right of the line? And what we're talking about is kind of a scant 1/4 inch. Not all machines, no matter how many times you've set it up, do an accurate scant 1/4 inch or even an accurate 1/4 inch. You have to constantly check it if precision is important. I'm sorry, I've got a major lump here in my throat. Okay, so that could have put those pieces out by just a hair, by a 1/16 of an inch, but it multiplies across the whole block as you go on. So yeah, that is why I think I didn't get these things to line up quite exact. And that's a problem. Now, I could redo the blocks, but is it worth it? I could do some stretching and pulling. Not always a good idea either, for this kind of thing. But again, is it worth it? This is not going into a quilt show. None of my quilts go on a quilt show. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to use the expression, and you've heard it before, it will quilt out. And it is my belief that once it's quilted, once it's bound, unless you really, really study it, you're not going to notice those little problems. Now, I have got it quilted, and I'm going to bind it today, but I'm not going to show it until we come to the end of the sew along, which is another week or two, and then I'll show you the final, what it looks like when it's completely done. Now, another thing I did with this is I added borders, of course, because he did it as a table runner, so he didn't really have border instructions. And I decided to use the same 3 principal colors that I used in the block and make my borders. And I did a double border. I did a thin border and a little wider border just to make this a little bigger. And I decided, hey, let's not just do a solid colored border. I did a 2-color border all the way around. And by the way, that little piece at the top that looks like it's rippling, that is not my sewing. That is the carpet that this is laying on top of when I took the picture. It is straight. I mean, my blocks might not match up perfectly, but my borders are straight. So you can see I did them opposite corners. I like using this method when you're adding borders to things because I think it gives it a nice look, variety. Not difficult to do for sure. So yeah, so as I said, it is now quilted. And today I'm going to finish it by putting the binding on it. Okay, that was project number 1. Project number 2. This one had been sitting on Lucy for a long, long time. I finished piecing this probably back in February, maybe even January. And it's just sat there. I just didn't get around to it. I had some other jobs ahead of it that needed to get done. And, you know, one thing leads to another and it all piled up. We went off to Australia. And so anyways, I finally got it on Lucy. It is quilted, as you can see. I did little swirls around it. I thought the curves would be a nice contrast to the straight line linear piecing. And it's bound. And this little sucker's actually quite big. I think it's about 90 by 76, something like that. And now in this one, it's not really a mistake, but I did something a little different. I have done this before in other quilts, and I do it not for technique, I do it out of laziness. And it has to do with the batting. I doubled the batting in this quilt. Why? Because I could, and also because it was easier. Because of the dimensions of this quilt, I buy my batting on a roll. and it's doubled over. So when you unroll it from the roll, you have to open up the batting, and then you get a single layer of batting. But this quilt, for whatever reason, would fit on 1/2 of the batting, which meant that I didn't have to open it up. So when you open it up, you've got to cut it, right? So it's the size that you want on your long arm. And it's a bitch when you have to cut it that way. See, I suppose if I laid my batting out on the floor and measured it all out and cut it that way, it might be a little easier. But then I get fluff all over everything. And I'm in my rec room when I do this. And that carpet that you see peeking out on the edges of the quilt picks up everything. And that carpet is a bitch to vacuum. It's wool. And everything sticks to it. I'm constantly picking up little pieces of fluff already off that carpet. It drives me mad. Love the carpet. Hate the fact that everything sticks to it. Anyways, that's why I don't put my batting on it, because it would be one giant fluff ball by the time I was done. So I leave it on my Lucy and position it in such a way that I can cut my batting up. But it is still very awkward, and it's very hard to get the edges of the batting straight. Now, mind you, that's not a major problem because I cut the batting bigger than the quilt, as you should, and I trim it there. And if there's jagged edges on it, well, they're way out in the seam allowance kind of thing. Call it a seam allowance. And it's going to get trimmed off anyways when you square up the quilt after it's quilted. So it's not a big problem, but it's still, depending on your mood, you don't always feel like tugging around on this batting. And that's the other thing too. You got to be careful pulling on the batting because you can rip out pieces of it very easily or put a hole in it if you stretch it too much. Ask me how I know. So I decided I'll just leave it. It fits very nicely here, easier to work with. I don't have to do any cutting, and it'll make a fluffier quilt. And it did. And it also made a very heavy quilt. This is like a weighted blanket. Who would have thought that batting and fabric and thread would basically make something really heavy? Well, it is really heavy, but it did come out fairly fluffy, and it's fine. This was one of those little easy quilt patterns from Donna Jordan. You use a jelly roll for it. I had a jelly roll sitting around that I've had sitting around for literally years and decided, hey, this would be a good project to do with that. So that's what I did. It's called Diamond Trip. If you're interested in the pattern, it's free. It's on the Jordan Fabrics website. Just go into their pattern section under free and you'll find it. Again, it's called Diamond Trip. Okay, then, yes, I was very ambitious in the last week. I was working on this during Pop-Up Sew Day this week, along with working on another quilt too. You see a little piece of it in the back corner behind me, but I'm not going to talk about it today. Anyways, one of the ladies, Nancy, on Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen last Wednesday, was working on this in her embroidery machine, and I really love the pattern, and it's a Sweetpea pattern. So I decided I would do this as well. Now, I do have a purpose for this table runner, and I really love how it turned out. And it went together really nicely as well. And here's a trick. If you're into machine embroidery and doing in the hoop applique projects, when you have ones like this where you have to put panels together and you put them together on your conventional sewing machine, I use invisible thread by Superior or Invisifil. Either one is fine to put those pieces together, because if you don't get them lined up perfectly to the point where you might see your thread, if you're just using your like 50 weight Aurifil white or something like that, the invisible melts right into it. I love the invisible thread. The only problem is it's a little bit tricky to work with when the thread breaks, because it's hard to see whether your needle's still threaded or not. At least I have trouble seeing it, but I don't have that great eyesight. I also use the invisible thread when I'm putting on bindings, not just on table runners, when I do quilts. Now, I use the invisible thread both in the top thread and in the bobbin thread. And if I don't get it perfect, if it's my line of stitching is a little bit crooked in some spots or whatever, you don't see it. Can you see my thread in here? You can't. It melts right into the color of your fabric, and I like that. So, you know, it's worth the trickiness of using it. It's not that tricky. I mean, in the old days of invisible or monofilament threads, they were like fish wire, you know, fishing line wire kind of a thing. But the new ones are not. It's just that they're so fine. I think this one might be 100 weight. I'm not sure. 80 anyways. It is really difficult to see when you're trying to thread your machine with it. But it works. So yeah, this is going to be a gift for some friends of ours that we'll probably be seeing next month. So yeah, I really like how it turned out. One thing I could have done, and I didn't think of it afterwards, but then that might have looked funny, was one of the birds, either the top or the bottom one, I could have turned the panel 180 degrees, and then one bird would be facing inwards from the right, the other one would be facing inwards from the left, except then the top piece of fabric would be in the wrong spot. But that might not have been so bad, because as I look at it right now, it would have probably have matched up. It probably would have matched up fine. I could have done that. Yeah, now that I look at it. But anyways, it is what it is. It looks fine. Again, if you don't say these things to people when you give it to them, they'll never know. They'll think that's exactly the way it's supposed to be. And in this case, it was really up to you, the designer, how you want to put it together. So yeah. Okay. So that was kind of long today, but I want to show you all those projects. So on Wednesday, we have Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen starting at 9 a.m. Links are in the show notes below. And I'm just adjusting things here. And let's see, we have the Tabletastic 2. There was one last Thursday, and there'll be, that was, I think we did, that was 4 and 5, I think. And this Thursday coming up, it'll be steps 6 and 7. And then all we have is the final assembly of the block, and that'll be next week. Now, just back to Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen. Stephanie may make a candid appearance depending on what she's doing, because she's on a cruise. She's on a quilting cruise, and she's already posted one video about that, and I'm looking forward to her next one. The ship she's on looks beautiful. I think it's a Royal Caribbean ship. I think it's called the Harmony of the Seas. It's got this cool bar that is like an elevator. It's goes up and down through several different decks. It doesn't look very big though, so I have a feeling you probably have to make a reservation to get in there. That's what I hate when you go on cruises. The boats are so big now. I think the one she's on holds like 5,000 passengers, something like that. I don't know. According to Walter, who, you know, he checks these things out, as you know. So yeah. And I think Stephanie said too, she found there were a lot of people. And she's like me too. We don't like crowds very well. So yeah, but I'm sure she's having a blast. She and Ingrid both are on that, and I'm looking forward to seeing her next video. So if she can, if she has all the technological connections and the time and whatnot, she may pop in sometime during our pop-up sew day. But otherwise, it's just me. I know. That means there'll be nobody. It'll just be me sewing on my own. Yeah. Yeah, I know. You come for Stephanie. I get it. I'm not jealous. Much. Okay, moving on. Pop-up sew day was great. We had a lot of fun. I think people got a lot of things done. I know I certainly did, because I showed it to you. And I always enjoy my pop-up sew days. I love talking to other people. I love listening to the conversations. Always learn something. Usually end up buying something or two because somebody's got something I want. Did I buy anything on Saturday? I don't think I did. Or did I? Don't think I did. No. Although there is one thing that came up that I want to look into. I just remembered it. So still the possibility after the fact that I will buy something. But everybody had a good time. I think we had, at the height of it, about 40. which was great. And next pop-up sew day will be sometime in June, and we start June this Friday. Time's going fast. So I'm not sure yet. I'm not even going to say a date yet because I have to look at my calendar and see. But yes, there will be at least one, if not two, pop-up sew days next month in June. So stay tuned because I will announce them here. Okay, so takes me to demos, reviews, sew-alongs, and thoughts. I went shopping on the weekend, and let me just see if I can pull this up. And where did I put it? It is here somewhere. Bear with me for a moment as I locate this. Yeah, here we go. Okay, technology is wonderful when you're planned for it, but you know, I need to be a little bit more organized on things like this. Well, I was, but I closed it out. Yeah, well, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyways, I'm rambling here to buy myself time. Okay, here's what I want to show you. Ultimate Sewing, my local quilt store, had a huge sale Friday and Saturday of last week. 20% off everything in the store. So did I need fabric? No. Did I want fabric? Yes, at that price, I did. Because Ultimate Sewing's prices on fabric, on average, is usually about $17 a meter, which is good just at that price. But you get another 20% off. Holy crap. You're paying like $13 Canadian a meter. Yeah. So really good. So I thought I'd get a few things that grabbed my attention. So you can see them here. Of course, I usually get a lot of blues no matter what, but this is a batik, and this is too. The first two blues are batiks, and you know how I love batiks. I love working with batiks. I know not everybody loves working with batiks, but I do because, first of all, most batiks do not have a right or wrong side. So if you're doing something where, you know, it's important that you get everything lined up the right way, you don't have to worry about it with batiks. Also, batiks don't fray as much as regular fabric. Now, many of you who are tulip pink fans will definitely recognize these next three. They are tulip pink fabrics. I am not a tulip pink person. I mean, I admire her artistic ability. I love her colors and things, but I just never know what to do with them. But this one, I thought I could use, and I think I may have some of this already in my stash. So I bought some more. These two, I can't tell you for sure who these are by. I don't know. This reddy pinkish one and this purpley one, but I love the pattern in them. And yeah, had to add them to the stash. And this one with the paisleys on it was just whimsical. I said to Walter, that might make a neat shirt. And he poo-pawed it. He says, no. He said it's too loud. And it is probably even too loud for me. But it's fun fabric. So do I have a plan for it? Of course I don't. It's pretty. And these next two, this one I already own some of it, but you remember when I told you about my problem with my chair, which I'll come to in a second again about an update on that. I recovered the seat of my sewing chair with this fabric. So I had 2 meters of it. I have about a meter left. I bought another couple of meters. Actually, I think I got more than 2 meters because it looked like there wasn't much left on the bolt, and one of the staff at Ultimate Quilting asked me, do you want the rest to the end of it? And I said, sure, give it all to me, might as well take it. And then I saw this, and this I bought, I took everything that was on the bolt, and I'm not sure how many meters were there, probably about 5 meters, maybe 6, something like that. I bought this because I wanted something a little different for background fabrics. I tend to lean towards white background fabrics, especially ones that are tone on tone, you know, with a pale dot or something like that. And I thought I should break out of the mold a little bit and buy something that's a little bit more dramatic. And that's why I purchased that one. So yeah, what you see here, well, I also bought a bundle. Do I not have? Yeah, I'm not done yet. Here we go. I bought a bundle of fabric. It was Maywood Studio, It's all in blues and that kind of thing. And that was, you know, $51.99 was the regular price for that. Got 20% off. So I thought that wasn't too bad. Remember, I'm quoting prices in Canadian dollars. Everything in Canada is more expensive than for those of you in the States. So yeah. It would be a real bargain if you'd been up here for that sale and you're American, because, you know, it would have been half price for you, because with the exchange rate on between the American and Canadian dollar, you get 30% off automatically because of exchange, and then another 20%. Wow, half price. More Americans need to come to Canada and do some shopping here, really, because you're going to get a real deal. Anyways, wish it was the other way around. This is backing fabric that I bought. I bought 3 meters of this. I thought this was really nice. Also, I was taking advantage of the fact that it's was 20% off, because this is about $30 a meter, and I always buy 3 meters for backing fabric. And then she had some that's pre-packaged. I've had this before. And again, this is 3 meters in here. It's by Northcott. It is batik, and I really like it. And I love these packages. They come in different colorways before, but really they go with almost anything, I have found. Of course, you know, you don't really have to match your backing fabric up with your quilt top, because nobody sees both sides at the same time usually. So, you know, but it was a good price. So, you know, 20% off. So, yeah, by the time I was done, I think that's, oh no, I have more, but that's not from that. So I don't want to show you that yet. So by the time I was done, I spent a little over $500. Oh, I did buy a spool of Floriani thread, and I bought a thing of flower head pins as well. So 500. Walter did some shopping too. I don't have his stuff to show you, but this time he bought fabric not for shirts. He bought fabric. He only spent about $200. He bought fabric for other projects like bags, and I think there's a quilt he wants to make. I don't think he's got very far on it. He's been really busy making a gift for a friend for today, actually, that's retiring, that he's going to a retirement luncheon for. So he's making her one of his fancy Walter bags, or as I call them, Wally bags. And, you know, Walter makes beautiful bags. We've seen them before here on the Idiot Quilter on So Chatty, and on our live as well. So yeah, he finished it up last night. So, and he goes off today at lunchtime. So yeah, that's what he bought and what he's working on and everything like that. Okay, so this one I want to show you because this was a complete and utter surprise, a very delightful surprise. This is a fabric by Dan Morris. Dan Morris right now is one of my favorite designers. I love his fabrics. I have a fair amount of it in my stash. And this arrived in the mail last week. And this is from one of my subscribers who I also call a friend. Many of you will know her. She will be embarrassed that I even mention this, but I'm going to do it anyways because this was a very generous gift. And this was from Pat. And if you're on Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, you know Pat. She's a regular on there. And I've gotten to know Pat over time as well. And this was just so nice of her to think about me. And she included, and I'm not going to read it to you because it's kind of personal, a really lovely card as well with this. And this is backing fabric. This is wide back, 108 inches, and there are 3 meters of it here. This is not an inexpensive gift. Plus, she had to pay to have it shipped from where she lives, and she's in the States, to here in Canada, so that cost her a pretty penny. I am not worthy. This just blew me out of the water. It is absolutely beautiful. I'm saving it for a project that will be worthy of it. I don't have one in mind at the moment, but I'm sure I will come up with one over time. And, you know, Pat, thank you so much. Um, was not necessary to do this. It was a lovely surprise. It just, between this and the card she wrote, it just really made my day, warmed my heart. So thank you again, Pat. That was so kind of you. Okay, before I get modeling here, let us switch over back here and let's talk about the Accuquilt and the my sewing chair, because I have a problem with both those. Now the sewing chair, I think I told you last week, had a picture of it. The seat cover has worn through. It was just quilting cotton, yada 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 yada. Normal wear and tear. Wrote to the company. They responded. And they told me they are sending me at their expense a brand new replacement seat and a replacement back for my sewing chair. That's Arrow, is the name of the company, and I am very, very impressed by their customer service because I really didn't think they were going to respond. So they asked me to pick any chair, like any covering, from their selection of chairs, and their chairs aren't cheap. I have seen them. They range in price from about $400 to $600 and some odd dollars, and they're all the same chair design. It's just difference of the covers, like what the pattern is. So I don't know why they have such a range in price. But anyways, the person looking after me did recommend that I buy one of the solid color ones because she said bath fabric on those chairs is a little bit more substantial than the printed ones. So I did. I ordered Duchess Blue. Yes, of course I ordered Duchess Blue. So that's coming sometime. I don't know when it'll arrive, but really impressed with the company. Okay, with their customer service. And you know I'm all about customer service. So when somebody goes above and beyond, I mean, it would have been easy for them to say, well, yeah, well, there's no warranty on that anymore, and that's just normal wear and tear, and left it. But they didn't. They took it on and are making it right. Now, my Accuquilt, my electric one, my Go Big, just stopped working. Won't turn on, no power in it. So, long story short, after checking out a few things, I took it over to Kawartha Quilting last Thursday, and it's still there. Zach took it apart while we were there looking at different things, and he was trying to figure out what might the problem been, and he was hoping if he can fix it, great. If he can't, it probably has to go back to Accuquilt. So I don't know how long that's going to take. I know Zach will look after me. At Kawartha Quilting is another spot you've heard me say that has excellent customer service, so I am not worried. I also have my manual one, so that will keep me going until the electric one comes back. I'm a little pissed off with the company, with Accuquilt, because this is a designer's manufactured flaw. Now, I know there's going to be a bunch of you out there say you have had your Accuquilt Go Big for years and never had a problem. And you know what I say to that when people write me those kind of comments. I say, good for you. But I am having a problem. I do not abuse my equipment. I look after it well. So, you know, and maybe I got the lemon. That's not unusual. My whole family, we always used to joke. When we buy something, we always buy the lemon. You know, if there's one bad one in the pack, we'll get it. So anyways, I'll keep you up to date on what happens with that, and we'll see. And if it has to go back to Accuquilt, I don't know how long that's going to take, because they're in Nebraska. I'm in Ontario, Canada. And yeah, we'll see what their customer service is like, I guess, from all of that. Okay, now, a couple of things that I bought. Not recently, though. I didn't buy these recently, but people have been asking about these. This discussion came up during Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen. I'm just looking for my pictures here. About two items which I happen to own. The first one is this one. This is the Triz Life or something desk vacuum cleaner. This is the one I bought. There are different ones you can get. So you can get some really cute ones, one that looks like a cat, things like that. They're not expensive. As you can see, this is Canadian dollars. This is Amazon.ca. I absolutely love this little desktop vacuum. It is wonderful. It works so well to pick up little pieces off your cutting mat or wherever, your work area. It works great on a wool mat, because you know on a wool mat how it'll pick up threads from your material as you're ironing and things like that. It has these little brushes on the bottom that pick up a lot of that stuff. It works really, really well. It's one of my favorite items, and I'm glad I invested in it. And like I said, it's not really a major investment. You can probably get it on Amazon.com, the American version of Amazon, and it's probably even cheaper there. So that's one thing. And the other thing, and I've kind of forgotten about this until someone brought it up on Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen, is this little thing. It's by Gypsy, and it is the Gypsy Quilt Mat Cleaning Pad, okay? And it's, you run this over, it's silicone, run it over your cutting mat, and it gets into all the little slits and things, you know, that happen over time, over use with your cutting mat, and pulls out all the little threads and little dust particles and things like that. It works really well. Now, you use this in combination with that little vacuum I just showed you, and you've got a really complete cleaning system for your cutting mat that works. And if you have never cleaned your cutting mat, you should, because maybe you can't see them. They're small, but there are in the little nooks and crannies that are created by your rotary cutter on that, there is junk in there, and that can affect the quality of your cutting. So between this and the other, the vacuum, it's a great combination for keeping things, you know, running smoothly. Also, I see here that says the price is $20.14 Canadian. It's cheaper on the Amazon.com site. I think it's only about $8.99 or something like that, American dollars. And you know, that's kind of weird because even with the exchange rate, it is still in the one on Amazon.com, same one, even if we put it into Canadian dollars, is cheaper than what Amazon.ca wants here for it. You got to know your prices when you're on Amazon. Yeah. Okay, so those are things that I bought. So that takes us to subscribers quilt of the week, and this is by Svelana Warner. She is in North South Wales, Australia area, and we've seen some of her beautiful creations before, but here is another one, and this one is actually a pillow. This week's quilt comes from Svelana Warner, or Lana Warner, as she prefers to be called. And Lana lives in Australia in a little place in New South Wales called Narooma. And she sends me this beautiful creation, which is based upon my patterns, and she made them into a pillow. So she says, my 24 by 24 cushion, the orange side, sits well amongst the modern bright colors of my other throws and cushions. And it does, for sure. This is very, very cheerful, very, very colorful here. And then she says, in the second photo, the blue side, I have turned all the cushions around to show the other patterns. They are a mix of experiments, orphans, or improv blocks. The quilting was by ruler work in circles and spirals, and there are no straight lines in space. So yeah, this is a very, very colorful display, and I like the idea that she can flip the cushions around to the other side and get a totally different look. We see, look one, look two. So I think it's gorgeous, and you did such a wonderful job, and it makes me very proud that you found the time and put in the effort to create this creation from one of my patterns. Thank you, Lana, for sharing that with us. And I am running out. In fact, I don't think I have any more things to show for next week. So if you've got a creation you would like to send me one picture of and a little blurb, 50 words or less, about that, please do. Please do it now, because I need some things to show next week. Or I'll be forced to show you more of mine from the past. Is that a threat? Could be. Could be. Okay, YouTube of the week. Now, this guy is quirky. I stumbled upon him. He's quirky, but he's knowledgeable. And his name is Cornelius Quiring. I have no idea if that's his real name or not, but it suits. And you'll see what I mean once you see this little review that I put together of his YouTube channel. This week's YouTube channel is one I just stumbled upon by accident. And this guy is a little bit different, but I think he knows what he's talking about. And this is Cornelius Quiring. And he has a lot of different videos about different sewing things. He is a sewer, a garment sewer, I believe. I don't think he's a quilter, but he did have a really interesting video right here called I Searched 1800s Patents to Understand This Ruler. And he explains the whole 1/4 inch. Let me just go to the video. He explains how this ruler that's been around for 100 years, and we all have one in our collection of sewing supplies, should actually be used, what it was designed to be used from. And it's kind of fascinating because there's a lot of things about this little tiny ruler that I certainly did not know. So if you're interested in finding out about the history of this ruler and finding other things like, you know, his videos, he has one about rescuing an old sewing machine. Why does my sewing machine have 3 needles? I don't know why. We have a naked picture of him, but he's one skinny fellow. And how to iron a button-up shirt, how to sew on a fly. So if you do more than just quilting, if you do garment sewing, you may want to check him out because he is quite a character, but he's very knowledgeable. So that is Cornelius Quiring, I think it is. Quiring. And yeah, lots of stuff here for your entertainment and education. So a future project is one called the Old Maid's Puzzle. This is an old traditional block, I believe. And the pattern I'm using is by Carol Thalen from the book Quilt in a Day 2023. And it's one that is designed to be used with the Accuquilt system. So here's what I'm talking about. This week's future project comes from the book by Carol Thalen, Block of the Day 2023. And this is one that uses the Accuquilt. That's why I bought this book, because it uses the Accuquilt for cutting out all the pieces. And it's called the Old Maid's Puzzle. And I think this is an old style of block. But it's one that I think it looks really great when depending on the colors that you use, because of course it creates sort of this star pattern, although there's sashing between each 1/4 edge of the star. So this one's one that really appeals to me, and because it uses Accuquilt, I want to get on with it. When? I don't know. I can't give you a listing for where you'll find this pattern because it comes from a book, but if you go on to Amazon and just put in Carol Thalen, you will find all of her books, and this one is the one from Block of the Day 2023. And that takes me to online quilt stores. This week, it's the Clothesline, Quilts, and Handwork. This week's online quilt store is called Clotheslines, Quilts, and Handiwork, and they are located in Newfoundland, which is kind of nice. I don't know if I've actually reviewed many quilt stores from Newfoundland. So let's take a look at their online presence and see what we have. So this is their front page. I don't know if they're still developing it or what's going on, but there seems to be some problems with headers and things like that, as you can see. Also, some problems in here with formatting and whatnot, but nevertheless, that's my first impression of them. So my first impression is, maybe they're not much on website development, but let's take a look at what they have to offer us. So let's go to fabrics. And yeah, we don't have a lot of graphics in here. We just have a lot of text. Subcategories, top sellers to the left. doesn't look like we have much of an index happening here. So let's click on collections, see what we have. Call of the Wild, a bunch of them named here. I'm looking for something that I'm familiar with. I'm not really sure. This is not helping me out. Let's go back here and let's take a look at, okay, this is not well organized. For the sake of this review, let's just go into Christmas and see here. Okay, here we've got some graphics. That's good. We can see what the fabric looks like. I was a little worried there for a minute about that. That would only be text, and that would not be helpful. 16.98. I'm assuming that's a meter. That's a really good price. Yep, and they do it in meters, and they have in half meters as well. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now that's seasonal fabric. Sometimes those tend to be a little bit more than others. So let's go back into collections and let's just, I don't know, pick something here at random and see what the prices are like. Well, that's a panel. 16.50. Okay. So it looks like from what we've seen so far that in around 16.50 is their standard price per meter for fabrics. That is not bad at all. It's on the lower end of the scale. Okay. Oh, here they have one called all quilting fabric. Oh, so here we have things organized a little bit better. Fabric by color, fabric by manufacturer. Okay, that helps, but it's confusing. I would think they need to consolidate fabrics and all quilting fabric together in one. Okay, here we have brands of fabric. Let's take a look at Northcott because it's a Canadian company. Solids are 10.50 a meter. That's pretty good. Those are just solids. They tend to be a little bit on the less expensive side. Let's pop over, see. Okay, Toscana, again, definite in-stock kind of fabric most quilt stores have. $12.98, that's a good price. And then some of the pattern is $14.98. So far I'm fairly impressed by their pricing of their fabrics. A lot of solids. Let's go to the last page and see what we have here. 1768. So from 1050 to 1768, that looks pretty good. And they do have quilt kits as well under the category. So I don't know if they put all the quilt kits under the manufacturers or not. Okay. We have fabric scrap bundles. Okay, so it's not really an intuitive design in the way things are laid out here on the page, but if you like to do a little bit of hunting, shopping, you know, this might be fun. But so far, I am impressed with the cost of their fabrics, the price of their fabrics. They do have daily deals. Let's see what's involved here. Some notions. Yeah, not a lot there. Looks like it's probably stuff they're not selling in the store and they're trying to get rid of. Quilt as you go projects. Okay. These are the June Taylor ones. All right. Pretty much standard pricing on those as well. Quilt backs. So this must be the wide backing. And wow. Well, they only have two to pick from, but that's really inexpensive. Like $17.98 a meter. I believe that's a meter. Let's just check. Yeah, I think so. Yep, per meter, but they don't have much to pick from. They do have 90-inch wide flannel, but as far as cotton, they only had the two. Okay. Again, here they have basics and blenders, and this stuff was in this one. So I think this category, and this category need to be put together with a way of organizing it a little bit better to find things. Yeah, pre-cuts. they did have pre-cuts somewhere. I thought I saw pre-cuts. Here we go. Okay, so do these link you up? 5-inch squares. Okay, not much there to write home about. 10-inch squares. A few more here to choose from. Prices are about standard. Do they show all this below? No. And then they have 1 yard bundles, 2.5-inch strips, 2.5-inch strips, so a jelly roll. Well, a few things, but again, selection is not overwhelming in the pre-cuts, but then again, that's not unusual on most sites. Pre-cuts are something I think that shop owners are very careful about getting because, you know, they might not sell that fast and you're stuck with some things for a long time. Let's check out their thread. They have Mettler, variegated silk finish. So it looks to me like they only sell Mettler threads. $15 for 2,000. Well, it depends. Mettler silk, $15. Okay, $13.75 for that one. I know nothing about Mettler, so I don't know if that's a good price or a bad price. Looks like, well, this one's a little cheaper because there's less of it. Okay, 2,000 VDS. I don't know what VDS means. Is that, oh, wait, I think it's yards. I don't think it's VDS. I think that's supposed to be a Y, but it's been cut off. Yeah, I think that's in yard. Yeah, up here it's yards. Okay. All right. Again, I have a feeling that someone in-house has designed their website, and yeah, it's not that good. I'm sorry to say that, but it's not that good. I mean, after all, I'm making my impression. My first impression is from the website. So, you know, and a lot of people might be, you know, think, I don't really trust this company. Okay, so it's important to have a good online presence and properly designed web page. Okay, what else can we look at? Well, they have knitting supplies, batting, and such. Bag batting and such. Is that a brand name? Nope, that's just different types of fusible. Yeah, and again, we have a repeat. We have the June Taylor Quilt As You Go. So there's a lot of overlap between each category, it seems. Let's just go back into the batting stuff and look at bag batting. Okay, so bag batting, they mean it's already pre-cut. And again, they have a fair selection, but of course, it's just not that wonderful. It's not grabbing me. Sorry if I'm sounding a little negative, but I'm making this is my honest impressions from just looking at the website. They have notions. Yeah, the standard kind of thing. Yeah, I'm really not understanding why we have pictures down here. And up here we have, I guess that's so you can go to a category quickly. Maybe that's the logic behind that. Okay, so it's about standard pricing on all of that. All right, they have rug hooking as well, books and patterns. Yeah, not much to choose from here. Okay, let's check out their shipping. Canada Post and Canadian orders. Up to $75 going to cost you $14, up to $150, $16, over $150, it's free. And US orders are here as well. Okay, well, shipping is not unreasonable. And like over $150 free, and it doesn't take long to get up to $150. Oh, here's something I didn't check before, the clearance bin. What do we got? Yeah. Okay, well, again, nothing really here that they got lots of pages of it though. You will, let's see. Well, they have a lot of stuff on clearance. There might be something in there. If one wished to study this further, you might find a bargain. Looks like things are put on about half price. So, okay. So, overall impression, I'm not going to run out and buy anything from them, although their shipping is reasonable, their fabric prices aren't bad. What really turns me off is the design of the web page. It's not that intuitive, it's not that easy. It looks like it's still a work in progress, and maybe that's it. Maybe this is still a work in progress. I don't know. But anyways, maybe there's something in here for you, so you may want to check it out. That's Clothesline, Quilts, and Handiwork. Okay, so that brings me to the end of this episode. So thanks for joining me. What's coming up? Nothing. Nothing. Yeah, have nothing planned. I mean, yeah, I'll be working on my usual things. There'll be my usual videos out of the week, but no real special events in my life. So, yeah, this coming weekend could be very quiet around here. Anyways, I hope you're having a good week, and I hope it's summer where you are, at least in North America. And yeah, and I hope you're not in the pathway of all of the tornadoes and everything that are happening down in the States. It's terrible. I mean, yeah, I know that that's part of nature and the season and everything down there, but it seems this year that, and over the last couple of years, that there are so many more of those and they have a wider radius of where they're happening at. So, you know, really feel bad for you people and hope that, you know, well, I just hope that it gets better. Okay. So, anyways, on that note, I'm going to say goodbye and we'll see you later in the week. Bye for now.